When we picture the fall of empires, we imagine dramatic invasions, burning cities, and armies clashing at the gates. These are the moments that fill our history books and capture our imagination, the spectacular, violent end of a civilization. But the real collapse usually starts long before the final battle. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, as the foundations of power slowly weaken from within. The signs are subtle: empty streets, neglected monuments, and a sense of decline that creeps in over generations. The true cause is often economic: overspending, mounting debt, and a slow erosion of trust in money. As empires grow, so do their ambitions and expenses, leading to financial strains that are hard to reverse. Empires at their peak enjoy strong militaries and trusted currencies, but maintaining power is expensive. The cost of defending vast borders, funding grand projects, and supporting a growing bureaucracy puts enormous pressure on the treasury. To pay the bills, governments debase their currency, mixing cheap metals into coins or printing more money. What starts as a temporary fix soon becomes a habit. As leaders try to avoid raising taxes or cutting spending, this leads to inflation, eroding the wealth of ordinary people and undermining confidence in the system. Prices rise, savings lose value, and daily life becomes harder for everyone, especially those who can least afford it. Once trust is lost, the empire becomes fragile. It can't pay its soldiers or run its administration. Public servants go unpaid. The military grows restless, and the machinery of government grinds to a halt. The cycle, overspending, debasement, inflation, collapse, repeats throughout history. Each stage feeds the next, creating a downward spiral that's almost impossible to escape. Rome, Spain, and Britain all followed this pattern, believing they were exceptions. Each thought their empire was too powerful, too advanced, or too unique to fall victim to the same mistakes. But the laws of economics are relentless. No matter how mighty an empire seems, it cannot escape the consequences of unsustainable choices. This isn't just history, it's a warning. The echoes of past collapses remind us that no society is immune to the forces that brought down the greatest powers of their age. The question now: is the United States following the same path? Are we repeating the same mistakes, ignoring the lessons carved into the ruins of fallen empires? Let's look at how this pattern has played out before, and what it might mean for our own future. Every great empire stands on two pillars: military power and trusted money. Throughout history, the mightiest civilizations have relied on these foundations to rise above their rivals and shape the world around them. A strong army secures borders, protects trade routes, and projects influence far beyond its homeland. But building and maintaining such a force is never cheap. It demands constant investment, resources, and unwavering commitment from the state. That's where trusted money comes in. A stable currency is the lifeblood of an empire, funding armies, building roads and aqueducts, and inspiring confidence both at home and abroad. Rome had the denarius, a coin that became a symbol of stability and power across continents. Its value was recognized from the British Isles to the deserts of the Middle East. Spain wielded the silver piece of 8, the first truly global currency, while Britain's pound sterling dominated world trade for centuries. When your money becomes the world's money, you gain enormous advantages: cheaper borrowing, easier trade, and the ability to shape global markets to your benefit. Your influence stretches far beyond your borders. Military strength and reserve currency create a powerful feedback loop, each reinforcing the other, making the empire even more formidable and resilient. At their peak, empires seem unstoppable, enjoying prosperity, security, and the admiration of the world. Their citizens thrive, and their leaders feel invincible. But success can breed overconfidence and reckless spending. Armies grow larger, governments become more extravagant, and the costs of maintaining power begin to spiral out of control. What was once a blueprint for power slowly turns into a recipe for overextension and vulnerability. The empire stretches itself thin, risking collapse. The seeds of decline are sown at the very height of success, often unnoticed until it's too late to reverse course. The question is not if, but when the bill comes due. Sooner or later, every empire must face the consequences of its choices. And history shows with unwavering certainty that the reckoning always arrives in the end. Rome's story is a textbook case. The denarius, once nearly pure silver, was trusted across the empire. This trust funded legions, roads, and prosperity. But as costs soared, emperors debased the coin, mixing in copper to stretch their silver. Each new emperor made the coins even less valuable. By the 3rd century, the denarius was mostly copper, and people knew it. Inflation exploded, prices soared, savings vanished, and soldiers demanded payment in gold or goods. Barter replaced cash as trust evaporated. The government couldn't fund its armies, and the empire weakened from within. When invaders arrived, Rome was already hollowed out by its own financial mismanagement. The lesson: economic decay precedes military defeat. Rome fell not just to enemies, but to its own broken money. The pattern would repeat. Spain's empire was built on silver from the Americas, seemingly endless wealth. The piece of 8 became the world's first global currency. But the silver flood caused massive inflation. Prices soared, Spanish goods became uncompetitive, and the economy hollowed out. Instead of investing in industry, Spain spent on wars and luxuries, borrowing heavily to cover deficits. Repeated bankruptcies and currency debasement destroyed trust. Credit dried up, and Spain's power faded. The world's richest empire spent itself into decline. Money alone is not enough. Without discipline, it becomes a curse. Britain's empire was powered by the pound sterling, trusted and backed by gold. World War I changed everything. Britain suspended the gold standard and printed money to fund the war, plunging into debt. After the war, attempts to restore the old system failed. Exports collapsed, unemployment soared, and the pound lost value. World War II finished the job. Britain spent itself into near bankruptcy. At Bretton Woods, the US dollar replaced the pound as the world's reserve currency. Britain's empire unraveled, not from invasion, but from financial exhaustion. The lesson: even the mightiest can fall when the money runs out. Economic power, not just military might, determines an empire's fate. The sun set on Britain because the bank was empty. The pattern continued. The next chapter belonged to America. But would it be different? After World War II, the US dollar emerged as the world's reserve currency, a position cemented by the Bretton Woods Agreement. This meant that every US dollar in circulation was backed by a fixed amount of gold, and other countries pegged their currencies to the dollar, creating a stable global financial system. This gold-backed system fueled a massive post-war economic boom, not just in America, but around the world. Global confidence in the dollar soared, and international trade flourished as nations trusted the stability of the US currency. But by the 1960s, US government spending began to spiral, funding the costly Vietnam War abroad and ambitious social programs at home, like the Great Society. The nation was living beyond its means, and the cracks in the system started to show. To cover these growing deficits, the US government resorted to printing more dollars. But the amount of gold in reserve stayed the same, while the number of dollars in circulation kept rising, creating an imbalance that worried other countries. Foreign nations, sensing trouble, began demanding gold in exchange for their dollars. As gold flowed out of US vaults, America's reserves dwindled, threatening the very foundation of the global monetary system. In 1971, President Nixon made a historic announcement. The US would no longer exchange dollars for gold. This move, known as closing the gold window, ended the era of dollar-gold convertibility and shocked the world. Overnight, the dollar became fiat money, backed not by gold, but by the trust and confidence of people and governments worldwide. The rules of money had changed forever. Now, the US government could print as much money as it needed to pay its bills, with no gold limit. The money supply grew rapidly, and the era of easy money had begun. As a result, national debt exploded, from $400 billion in 1971 to over $36 trillion by 2025. The numbers kept climbing, with each new crisis adding to the total. Printing money became the go-to solution for every economic emergency, from recessions to financial crashes. Each time, more dollars entered the system, and the cycle repeated. It's the modern equivalent of Rome's debased coins. More dollars chasing the same goods, leading to less value for each one. History, it seems, has a way of repeating itself. The consequences are still unfolding today, as inflation rises and economic uncertainty grows. People worry about the future of their savings and the stability of the system. Around the globe, trust in the dollar is being tested like never before. The story of money continues, shaped by choices made decades ago, and the cycle goes on. The US now shows all the classic signs of imperial decline. Military overreach, hundreds of bases worldwide, a defense budget bigger than the next 10 countries combined. Endless wars have drained trillions. Currency debasement. Since 1971, the dollar's value has plummeted. What cost $1 then costs about $8 today. Massive money creation has fueled inflation, eroding savings and trust. Global confidence is slipping. Major economies are seeking alternatives to the dollar. BRICS nations are trading in their own currencies. Central banks are buying gold. The dollar's share of global reserves is shrinking. This isn't a sudden collapse, but a slow erosion, just as with Rome, Spain, and Britain. The warning signs are clear. The US is not immune to history's pattern. The world is watching. There's one crucial difference. The US dollar is the backbone of the global financial system. Most international trade is priced in dollars. Central banks everywhere hold dollar reserves. This exorbitant privilege lets the US run deficits and borrow cheaply. But it also means the world shares America's financial risks. When the US prints money, inflation spreads worldwide. A dollar collapse would trigger a global crisis, not just a national one. Other countries want to reduce their dependence, but can't risk sudden chaos. The world is trapped in a paradox, needing the dollar, but fearing its decline. The endgame is more complex and unpredictable than ever before. The stakes are global. History suggests America's end won't be sudden invasion, but economic reckoning. 3 paths lie ahead. First, a managed decline, like Britain's, dollar replaced by a basket of currencies, painful adjustment, but no collapse. Second, a chaotic collapse, loss of confidence, hyperinflation, depression, and global turmoil. Third, a global reset. Nations cooperate to build a new financial system, ending the dollar's dominance. The first path is difficult, the second disastrous, the third hopeful but hard to achieve. The world's future depends on which road is chosen. The lesson from history is clear. Empires fall when they ignore economic reality. The question is not if change will come, but how. The answer will shape the world for generations.